Um, How about that for a nice noise? We haven't heard that in a while. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the public meeting work session for July 12th, 2021. And with that, if we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And with that, Deanna, the roll call.
Liz McNaney, President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Vice President.
Here.
Martha Similero, Commissioner. Here. Catherine Carter, Commissioner. Here. Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Isaac Kessler, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police.
Here.
David Brill, Finance Director. Not here. Van Reeker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
Thank you, Deanna. Next on the agenda, I will turn it over to Solicitor Gallagher for the announcement of the executive session.
Thank you, President McNady. The board did meet in executive session earlier this evening to discuss matters of personnel, potential litigation, labor relations, and public safety.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to Sandra, a few things. First, welcome to Isaac. First time he's been up here with us. Yay. And second, the work sessions. These are meetings where we used to hold in one of the boardrooms where the public was invited to attend. But we decided to move them out here to have more room for the public to attend. And also, these meetings are an informal way for us as the board and for residents to ask questions and talk about all the things that are on this agenda, which will be then brought over to the public meeting agenda, the what do we call it, business meeting agenda. So this is our time to talk and ask questions and get clarification on things. So that's the setup for the first meeting of every month. So with that, I will turn it over to Sandra. Oh, wait, sorry, before I do, because I was thinking public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Thank you. Now I'll turn it over.
Okay. It's fun in this new digital and real life world. I'm so happy to be here. So let's get started. On July 20th, we are going to actually have 3 employee recognitions. Bill Smith is 35 years in our wastewater department. Peanut is 30 years in our public works department, and Ray Royd's 20 years in police. And I know that Peanut will be attending. I'm not sure about the other 2. We don't know yet, but we'll know by the 20th. Next up will be our public hearing regarding Ordinance 2102, which is regarding taxation in the township. And this will enable, if approved, will enable volunteers that volunteer for North Penn Fire Company and live in Upper Gwynedd Township to receive tax credits. Are there any questions? No. Okay, then I will turn it over to Mr. Van Reeker.
Thank you, Sandra. It's a pleasure to be back in person.
No, it really
See
is.
everybody. Hello. Planning and zoning report. I guess I don't need this. So, couple of things. Some of this, these are holdovers, and some are new. So stop me whenever you have a question. Subdivision land development for 17 townhomes, formerly known as Jeppy. They're still working on a name. We hope to have that approved in 2 weeks. This is the long Southern Down Pike. You'll remember that they had requested a use variance to use that approximately 3-acre tract, which we thought was a troubled piece of property, needed to be looked to see it upgraded. Number of plans were filed. an acceptable plan was submitted, and they are now in the land development and subdivision process of finalizing details, engineering, how the traffic's going to work. Isaac, we've all completed all our reviews, except I think, Megan, the only one to be heard from is Montgomery County Planning Commission.
Yes, then the EAC.
And the EAC, okay. Questions on that one? That's still in progress. Maybe you'll see that in 2 months, perhaps, 2 or 3 months. I don't think you'll see it next month. Shops at Upper Gwynedd is here only to restate what Sandra already discussed, which was a conditional use. Maybe you didn't. There was a conditional use
Not yet.
pending. That'll come later. So this is the pending decision that you will have to undertake at the next meeting, should you elect to make a decision. This is a result of the conditional use requires in the C district, in order to have multiple uses on one tract, conditional use approval by the board, you folks, and you've heard the hearings and are contemplating a decision. Roosevelt Court is one that's been around for a while. It's pending, I think, final details to be completed and submitted to Megan and staff. It looks like that will be an action item for the next meeting, for the public meeting? Okay. So that'll be in the 14th. Or no, what is the date going to be?
The 20th.
The 20th. Morris Road. So this is an update for you. This is a Worcester application before their zoning hearing board. We know it as the BERG, B-E-R-G application. In Worcester, in order to qualify as a group home, you need a special exception. They've had those hearings. The hearings were closed. They rendered a decision. You'll remember that residents in Upper Gwynedd were notified, particularly the Blue Fox Drive. Anyway, the zoning hearing board voted to recommend approval or decide approval subject to a number of conditions. And I'm not certain, based on the township manager and their solicitor, whether all the conditions have been accepted yet. So I think it's approved subject to, is I think the best way to report on that. That's 2816 Morris Road. The rest are ZHBs. 2 have been heard and 2 are to be heard. So 831 Ridgeview was a rear yard variance to permit a deck that was granted June 22nd. You heard that was going to happen last meeting. It was approved. Dimensional variance to allow a deck to project into the rear yard. 2109 208 Croft side yard variance to permit a garage addition. It was a very minor 3.5-foot variance into the side yard to allow them to expand the garage and to position a bedroom above it on the second floor. That was granted as well June 22nd by the zoning hearing board. For administrative purposes, what's next for them is that they'll submit their grading plans that the township will look at. They'll need to demonstrate compliance with grading and zoning, and ultimately a use and occupancy, a building permit could be granted subject to the acceptability of those plans. Now, there's 2 new ones you haven't seen before. 2110, 1601 Clearview Road. This is very interesting. I'm only because you might be wondering, this is the first time I've been doing this for 9 years. It's the first time we've had this issue come up at all, and it's coming up twice at the same hearing. So 1601 Clearview Road, it's in the westerly end of the township, corner property, and 2111 Gage Lane, that's Clovercrest. Both are in for the same relief, and that is because of conflicts on their property to position a shed, an accessory structure, forward of the principal structure. That's not permitted in zoning. In other words, you can't have an accessory structure, except for a garage, forward of a principal building, and no accessory buildings or principal buildings are permitted in the front yard. So in the case of 1601 Clearview, non-conforming lot, corner property, 2 front yards, non-conforming, they are asking permission to have a shed between their house and Town Pike, and happens to be also in their minimum required front yard because it's a non-conforming lot, so it preceded zoning. That area is actually maybe elevated 10 to 12 feet above Town Pike, even hard to know it's there. He disclosed it to us when he came in for another permit, and so I had no choice but to say, oops, we need to get this other one cleared up first, which he's agreed to do. Gage Lane, which is a acre lot in Clovercrest. It's the old Clovercrest house, for those of you that walk back there, I know Liz does. It's the one that you see at the end of Church Road. That is sort of an unusual corner lot in that it's a corner around a radius, and the house pre-exists because it's the original, probably 200-year-old house, and it sits way back. So he's moving a shed from his home in Doylestown Township, moving to Upper Gwynedd.
Wow.
And he has a picture of it, and it's beautiful. He wants to move it down here. He doesn't have room for it behind the principal building, the principal dwelling. Now, as a matter of fact, will be behind the required front yard, but it's forward of the principal dwelling because the Clovercrest house is set back so far. So that is a variance to permit a shed. Both of them are for sheds, both of them forward of the principal building. It's an unusual, like I say, I've been doing this for 9 years. It's the first time I've seen even two in the same application. They have photographs and submitted the exhibits. They've been advertised. Properties will be posted actually tomorrow. It'll be in the paper tomorrow, and they will be heard at the next zoning hearing board meeting, which is July 27th. The questions on these? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Van.
Okay, next up we have, sorry, I should have asked to see if there's any questions. Nope, we're good. Okay. Next up we have Isaac with his engineering report.
Thank you, Sandra. The engineering report for this month is included with the packet, but to highlight a few things, for July, our 2021 road program is continuing. The construction of the 88 curb ramps are reaching completion. There's a few more left. The paving of Moyer and Broad is looking to follow that. There's some storm pipe replacement scheduled for Moyer Boulevard. So the idea is that all the paving would be done after that, if possible. If the materials is the delay for the stormwater piping. If that continues to be a delay, we'll look at some other options to get the paving moving. But the idea is to do the paving all in one fell swoop. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that. Our annual road program, I wanted to mention, working with staff and Public Works, we've created a map of kind of the history of the roads that have been paved in 5-year increments over the last 15, almost 20 years that Willard had records on.
More. It went to like the 80s, I feel like.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the benefit of that really is as we're planning for road programs coming up, we can see which ones have kind of been left over the years, which ones are really due. And obviously the winter and things that happen throughout the year adjust those plans, but this will really give us a good idea of which ones should be next on the list as priorities as we move around the township for different roads. Our MS4 program, the annual report period has ended. That was the end of June. So we're now officially in next year's annual report time. And between now and September is when we compile all the information, get it packaged up for DEP, and that keeps everything current with them and keeps our permit information moving forward. And finally, just to mention tonight, the grants that we continue to pursue. As we mentioned in some meetings prior, we've been successful with the Moncode 2040 grant for pedestrian and safety improvements around the township. Also the PennDOT MTF grant for the Town Pike bridge replacement. And we have a few out there. We've met with staff to kind of keep them all organized and tracking all of them.
Isaac's firm and Dominic at his firm made a really great tracking sheet for us. So on one whole side of the page is devoted to the Haynes Run with like 5 different grant funding sources that we're trying to go after, which is awesome. And then one whole side is devoted to the MTF program. It's a little complex, so we're so glad to have them. It was really great that they came prepared with all of that.
Yeah, it's not a bad problem to have that there's
No, it's
many
not.
grants that
Yeah.
we're applying for, but hopefully we'll hear back from a few more of those a few months from now when they issue the funding. And we'll have some really good projects kind of set up for the years that'll be, the next year to 3 years for those funding sources. There'll be one other grant, probably the next one you'll see is the CTP grant, the County Transportation Program. And that is one that will have a resolution attached to it that'll be connected with the Town Bridge replacement. We'll try to use that to cover some of the current township costs that we're looking at and hopefully get some more funding assistance with that. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Keep up the good work on getting grants.
Okay, next up is the staff departmental reports. I'd like to put those on the consent agenda for the next meeting, as well as the public meeting minutes for June 7th and 15th. And item number 16 is advertisement of ordinance 21-01. I know that I didn't include that in your packet yet because Lauren and I are still working with the PA HRC to make sure we understand one of the points that the gentleman made for us. We hope to have that ready for you by July 20th because it'll be a advertisement, a motion to authorize advertisement, but it sort of depends on when we hear back. So, and this would be to make some updates that will make our ordinance a little bit more in line with the PA state ordinance and a couple changes that we realized we should make once we had the group in place. And we've reviewed all the changes with the HRC.
How did we realize that we needed to make some changes?
The gentleman from PA HRC came to our meeting and told us. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great resource then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would propose that item 17 get added to the consent agenda. It's a MERC waiver request for after hours crane work. And then for item 18, this will be for July 20th. You'll have the consideration for conditional use hearing for Hartford. There's an acceptance of a deed of dedication for Gwynedd Walk. So this is, I'm not sure if everyone's been through a deeded dedication yet. This is when a land development's completely finished. We're ready to take ownership of the public pieces of the land. And it's sort of the last step before the maintenance period begins for the developer. They still have 18 months after the deed of dedication, where if like a tree dies or something goes weird, that we can have them fix it. And along with that, there's an authorization for me to release their performance bond. And that's something that comes along with the construction phase, but they won't be in the construction phase anymore. Next up, we have the advertisement of 2021-03, amending the zoning code, which I think we spoke about this in depth. But Van, did you want to add anything to talk about for the board on this one?
I think you've all heard about it. This was initiated by staff and two of the board members who had observed the tediousness of some of the variances that we had to require applicants to make. And we observed, and I talked to Lauren about it, there were a number of neighborhoods that were pre-approved before there was an R2 district. They were approved under prior zoning districts. Back in the day, some 30 or so years ago, when the current map was sort of put together as we know it today, the one behind Megan and Deanna, there were a number of those older neighborhoods that were called R100 and R125 that became R2. But they were slightly undersized as to side yards and the lot width. And in order to recognize that nonconformity and that those properties would struggle to have to comply to an R2 standard, Lauren and I worked on some language that is basically legislatively going to permit the township to approve requests for, and I think it's garages, one-story garages, decks and patios, basic sort of accessory additions that they could slightly intrude into the required side and rear yards, but commensurate with what's already allowed under the PSRD, which was Gwynedd Ridge. And the difference was, you would say, well, how come it's, well, PSRD was created in order to recognize when you create open space. Then you trade the slightly smaller lots for open space that's been preserved around the neighborhood. These were simply, couldn't benefit from that dedication of open space because it didn't exist. They didn't have the opportunity back in the day. So it simply says that for those properties that would be basically similar in size to a PSRD R2 only, that they would be treated basically the same as the PSRDs, that is the undersized lot. So it's sort of a way to administratively anticipate these sort of de minimis, which is a legal term. I didn't come up with that, but it's the de minimis applications that the zoning hearing board would almost always grant without a question anyway. So this would permit it, subject to your adopting that text amendment to the zoning code. Did you want to add anything, Lauren, to that?
No, I think you covered it.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Now's the time. I see. You look confused. Giving me a look.
You okay?
How many non-conforming lots do we
Yeah,
have?
I assumed somebody would ask me that. So real quick, in my head, there's maybe 200 in Upper Gwynedd. Kind of, some are scattered, and many are in west, sort of east of north and south of Southern Town Pike, and east of North Wales Borough, in that part of the township. And north of the Cathy's Lane neighborhood, where they were undersized prior zoning. And you wouldn't really know the difference, except that when you look at they're only 100 feet wide or 110, you need to be 120. And so they'll always have, and yet the standards for the R2 are based on a lot that's 120 feet wide and at least a half an acre. So these are lots that are traditionally 100 to 110 feet wide and maybe half an acre and maybe a little less. So this will apply only to the non-conforming, non-PSRD R2 lots in the township. I'm thinking there are a couple hundred roofs, maybe 300 tops. I think it's more like 200 or so lots.
So that's a lot of people, actually, if they
Well, yeah, I
wanted
mean,
to add, and be within the codes.
I think we thought it was enough that it would be important for the township to lead on that, and the Plan Review Committee representatives of your board agreed that it was something Liz and Denise wanted to sort of see happen if the rest of you agree with it. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike, any public comment? No? Okay, thanks. You'll flag me down? Okay, gotcha. All right. Let's see, next up is the resolution for Roosevelt Court. So at our next meeting, the applicant will be here to present their land development plan, which you guys saw pretty in depth during the conditional use hearing portion of their application, but this will have more detailed information on the land development plan. Were there any questions about that or the resolution? Okay. The shops at Upper Gwynedd, escrow release number 7. I'd like to put this on the consent agenda, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, good. And next up is the motion to, just to point out, this will be a decision item. We'll be asking for a decision and a vote from you tonight. This happens sometimes when we have time-sensitive things that we'd like to get done at this meeting versus the next meeting. So this decision would be to ratify the assignment agreement dated June 15th, 2021 between Upper Gwynedd Township, Arna UG Associates LLC, and EELI LLC for the J subdivision. I think most of the commissioners are aware of this situation that involved an older land development approval. Lauren, you can take over if you'd like.
Sure, this was a land development approval from several years back, and there was a new developer that was looking to come in and have the rights for the land development assigned over to it. The new developer is going to be the EELI LLC portion of this. What we discovered in reviewing this was that there had been changes to a lot of the ordinances, including zoning and stormwater, which went into effect in between the time that this was approved and today. And so we worked with the existing developer and the new developer to come up with a stormwater plan as well as some zoning solutions regarding the side yard setbacks for some of these lots. So this agreement allows the existing developer to assign its rights in the land development over to the new developer, and the new developer will then develop it for, I believe, 3 new residential single families.
And can I just add that for the other commissioners, we were adamant, the township was adamant that this developer communicate with the residents who were already living there, who had grown accustomed to a lot of open space in that area. And since we were compromising with some of the zoning, we wanted to make sure that they were very transparent with all of the residents. And so they did a great job communicating with them, their entire plan, and they got all of those residents who would be affected by the zoning to actually sign off and sign a statement that they were in support of it. So I was really happy how much extra effort the developer put into doing this, into really putting an extra effort into the needs of the community, which I thought was really admirable, and I really appreciated.
So I'm asking for a motion then. So do we have a motion to ratify the assignment agreement dated June 15th, 2021?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any public comment on this? No public comment? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Great, thank you all. I believe that they're planning to go to settlement tomorrow, so they're probably thrilled listening to our broadcast right now. So next up is in our public safety section of the agenda, a discussion of an ordinance amending the current traffic, allowing no blocking the intersection signage to be placed at Oakland Place. Chief, did you want to speak to this? Could you please step up to the microphone? I'm sorry. This is a new thing because we are live broadcasting on the internet. We would like people to be able to hear your wonderful comments.
My name's Dave Duffy. I'm at 1 Parkside Place.
I need to move the mic up, Chief. That's kind of at your, there we go.
All right. So this is a suggestion from residents as a result of a meeting. I think it's been 2 years now, regarding some other traffic issues in that area. And the issue residents have who live in the development, if you're going down Sunny Town Pike, it would be eastbound approaching Oakland. The people in the development there have a problem getting out, especially if they're making a left turn, which frankly I think is chancy with or without signage, but that's their discretion. I don't think we should try to restrict that, but they would like to see these signs added so that it helps with the flow of traffic, especially with backup sometimes created by Sweetsford Road stop signs, which I think are still very effective. The cheapest, most effective, safe traffic signs I've seen put up in quite a long time was adding the stop signs there on Sunny Town Pike in conjunction with Lower Gwynedd. We'll see if traffic improves as the signal improvements continue down on 202 in Lower Gwynedd with William Penn Inn and everything else. Anyway, these signs would say just that, hoping not to block the intersection for people. If the board approves it and passes it, they're enforceable, but they're really more advisory. We would try to make it more of an advisory situation than an enforcement one, instead of going in there, walking up the cars and telling them to pull over so we can give them a ticket for it. We're trying to make it help prevent accidents. I don't want residents there to take it for granted that because it's clear just for eastbound, they can pull out and make that left onto westbound Sunny Town Pike, but it should give them a little bit more leeway to make decisions. So I think we could try it at least. And again, from the police perspective, it's not a sign I'd be advocating for constant enforcement about, but more to make people aware of it and be mindful of it and do some education campaigns, if you will. So, any questions on it? Okay.
So if the board is in general in favor of us moving in this direction, we can move forward with having the solicitor prepare an amendment to the ordinance, and that would come before you all for a motion to advertise, and then also the motion to approve at a second meeting.
Okay.
So is everyone good with this? Just a consensus is fine.
While I'm up here, the next one, no parking or standing signs. They're actually in the ordinance already. This is down near the trail. We just don't have the signs up yet, but I recommend that we put the signs, and these we would like to enforce because it does create some sight distance hindrances, and we want people to be able to cross that trail safely and not block up the road down there. And it'll be part of the overall improvement for pedestrian safety that we're hoping for at the intersection. So that's why we asked that to be on the agenda.
I think this is really important. We get a lot of comments and complaints, and I know we have some walkers on the board that see how often there are sight distance blockages there. So if everyone's okay with that, we will move forward on that one as well.
That, just to be clear, that's at Moyer Boulevard and North Wales Road?
Yes.
For crossing right at the bottom of both of those hills, yeah.
Yeah.
And just one other thing, back to 24, Chief. You did say that was asked at that large meeting that we had with those residents. The residents initiated that, to have those signs, right? If I
Yes,
remember.
that came from resident suggestions. There was discussion, I believe, during the meeting about prohibiting left-hand turns, but they didn't want any more restrictions on their neighborhood. Prohibiting left-hand turns is actually a really important safety decision to make for certain parts of the roads, and we enforce those. We're doing it now for Royal Farms and up at Weiss. We put those on our detail list because they create accidents. At that intersection, it's the residents who are making those turns, and a lot of them opt to go down to Swedesford, all the way through the neighborhood of Swedesford, come up and use a stop sign, and that's a better choice most of the time.
Right.
But I don't think it's of the level that the residents want to be prohibited from making a left. They just want to have more visibility.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on that or either of those two items? Because if not, we are up to another decision item, item 26. This is just timely due to the fact that we have a potential buyer for this deputy fire marshal equipment. So as you know, with fire equipment, it has to fit your body. So we have a new deputy fire marshal, and we had to get him new equipment, and the old deputy fire marshal's equipment has just been, we hoped that they would be the same size, but they're not. So it's time to dispose of that equipment, and under first-class township code, the board can dispose of equipment under $2,000 approximate value. Lauren can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the rule I read in the code. Yep.
The 11,000 and change.
Oh, okay, great. So it's way more than 2,000. Either way,
I'm
this.
sorry, I was on the wrong agenda, but yes, 2,000.
2,000, okay. I was,
one ahead of
2,000,
you.
yeah, 2,000, it's definitely worth less than $2,000. And they have we have a potential buyer lined up, so we'd like to just get authorization to go ahead and sell that equipment.
So do we have a motion to approve the sale of the deputy fire marshal's equipment?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds. We have 2 seconds. We have 2. Yes, and a third. Any public comment on that? No? Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
Okay, and we are starting off the Park and Rec section with a couple decisions as well. Very exciting. July is Park and Rec month. Woo! Yay! And we kicked off our July with some great Park and Rec events. Our summer is jam-packed with all kinds of great events. I know that the most recent one was just the Night Sky Camp Out, which was a huge success, as usual.
Didn't rain, did it?
Yeah, it didn't rain. The event turned out really nice. We had tons of great comments about it on Facebook and from residents. And we have the arts in the park. I mean, the Park and Rec department is just very busy during this time of year, as well as, I don't want to forget the maintenance department, because they do so much work to keep our parks beautiful, the amount of time that they take mowing and taking care of everything, and they do a great job. So, because we're already on July 12th, we didn't want to wait until July 20th to declare July Park and Rec month. So we were hoping you would make a decision on this one
They get a
tonight as
whole
well.
month,
A whole
not a
month,
week.
yeah.
Do we want to read that, or do we just want to make a motion to?
That is your decision, El Presidente.
Well, I'm looking at Ruth because
Yeah.
this is her name.
Huh?
But no, I think you explained it all. We all read the memo and everything. Ruth, did you want to add anything before we?
No, I just think that this has been between with the pandemic and all the health issues and everything else. I think that there's real kudos that go to Sarah and her staff. And they have done a phenomenal job. In fact, even with some of the sports events and the basketball and the soccer, they actually had more people registered than they have in the past, which is really, and they've been successful. And so I think that, I think they deserve a whole month.
Yeah, and we have a great new minis camp as well,
Yes,
which I think has
that's
been
true.
really
Right,
successful.
which
They're
is-
really
that's what I'm
cute. They
saying.
came through with a little hat
That's
parade
right.
last week, and we all got to come out of our offices and see their little hats. They were so cute. We had so much fun.
And the
They're all giving
parents,
us sweet-
I'm sure the parents appreciate it too, the
Yeah.
little
Oh
camp.
my gosh, they're so cute. So I welcome them visiting the office anytime.
So although it sounds like we should recognize Parks and Rec every month, but we'll just do it for July. I think it's
Yeah, I
great.
think that would be great if we could do that.
So do we have a motion to approve? Resolution 26, 2021, recognizing July as parks. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any public comment? Nope. Any additional board comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes so have it.
And one last decision item for tonight would be the purchase of the Skag Cheetah 2. That is a very cool name for a zero-turn mower that will help us mow much more efficiently and also was in the 2021 budget. So this is a budgeted item.
Yeah, and that's a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am.
So before we do that, I had something, but I've just lost it. All right. So do we have a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Nobody wants to comment on the Skag Cheetah too? Come on. Any additional board comment? We need a roll call vote, Deanna?
President McNaney,
Aye.
Vice President Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Similaro. Aye. Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
I so have it. Purchase that Skag Cheetah.
Perfect, we will.
Didn't ever thought we would get a cheetah.
Especially a
If only
Skag.
it was a real cheetah. So next up, we have the heating oil bid for the consortium. We are so excited. We got a bidder, so that's good. It was our second time putting it out to bid. The first time we had no bidders at the price of $235.60 per gallon for heating oil for several towns in Montgomery County. And we'll be asking you for approval of that bid on July 20th. Advertisement of the bid for removal and replacement of underground gas and diesel tanks. As you'll recall, this was a budgeted item from our capital budget. We're moving forward with getting the bid together, and we'll be looking for you all to authorize that advertisement for the next meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. And this is always an exciting option because it's great when we can work together with other municipalities. We're looking to piggyback on the Gwynedd Township microsurfacing contract. Isaac I think you went over it with Willard, that the specs are what we're looking for in that contract. They have available the materials we're looking for microsurfacing, and it's a great way to save some money on the bidding costs to do it together. Last but not least, oh my gosh, Martha, this might be the first time you ever only had one item in your section. You can tell our WIP project is slowly but surely winding down. But this is to purchase, this is another budgeted item, the raw sewage pump VFDs for the wastewater plant.
So exciting.
I know, yeah. And then we will just next month or next week have the approval of the open and closed paid invoices for your approval. And that's everything that I had.
All right, did anybody have anything else before we adjourn this evening? besides, it's so great to be back, and
It is
my
really
neck is
nice.
gonna get
Everybody
sore
in
looking left
person.
and right instead of like straight on the
Actual real
screen.
people. And thank you all who came here this evening.
Do we know how many people were watching, or do we have any numbers? Probably like 2 million, around.
2 million.
All right, well, we hate to disappoint those millions of people, but we will adjourn for this evening then. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.